Welcome to the Girlfriend God Podcast, a podcast in search of and in service to the divine feminine, bringing you an equal mix of academic research and emotional spiritual experience. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment. If you enjoy this podcast, share it with your friends, rate and review it if you're listening on a streaming platform. Follow on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Now, let's get in the flow. Welcome to the Girlfriend God. Today, I am really happy to welcome Nicole Pemberton. Nicole is a Womb Priestess, an Alchemical Movement ritual facilitator, a mentor, writer, speaker, entrepreneur, educator, and sacred activist. Her lineage comes from the islands of Antigua, Barbuda. Am I saying that correctly?
Antigua and Barbuda.
Okay. St. Kitts, Nevis?
Nevis.
I knew I was going to get this wrong. And the countries of England and Canada. For over 25 years, Nicole has dedicated her life to the arts, wellness, empowerment. Nicole has studied health and embodiment coaching, womb wellness, spirituality, the divine feminine, and goddess arts, intuitive channeling, somatic movement, energy modalities, including Reiki, crystals, crystal therapy. She's performed nationally in Canada and internationally in places such as New York, Trinidad, Tobago. Okay. Continues to hold space and has currently facilitated movement experiences with over 100,000 humans. Wow. There's more about Nicole, plus links to all of her social media and services that you can sign up for. All of that is in the show notes. So, Nicole, welcome to the show. I know we had some missed communications here and there. We had to reschedule a few times, but I'm really glad that we were finally able to connect. And now we're here today, and we're going to talk all about I called this episode Journey to the Womb. So we're going to talk about the womb a lot, but a bunch of other things because, as I just read, you have experience in many areas, and you've practiced these things pretty much all over the world.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we are here. We have made it.
Yes, we have.
To this space. So I appreciate you for inviting me into this sacred space.
Thank goodness for Flora Ware, because I've had many people from that Heroine's Journey workshop that she did last year have been on this show, including Flora Ware. But I've had you on, and I've had Abigail Mensah-Bonsu and Rima Benario, and you guys all came from that workshop last year, which was amazing. I mean, that workshop changed my life. It really did. And I told her so not that long ago, because I don't think she realized just how much of an influence that had on me. So let's talk about the womb, because there seems to have been, I've noticed an increase of that in the online world, right? It seems like all of a sudden there was a big surge of Facebook groups and classes and womb meditations. And so can you speak to that? Like, why is that a thing? Kind of, I'm sure it wasn't all of a sudden, but in the online world, it seems like it's all of a sudden, right?
Yeah. Well, one, it's time that it's not, it feels cliche to say we're taking our power back, but at the same time, it's exactly what it is. I don't think we can say it any more plainer than that, because the this space from the base of our ribs down to the root of the spine has has been the center of control and suppression. And even if we go even higher to the feminine body, from the collarbone, from the collarbone all the way to the root of the spine. So this has been objectified, and put in a space where other systems have tried to control and nullify this space within our bodies, and give the control or the wisdom to outside people, uh, to say what we can and cannot do with our bodies. And we're in a space right now where we're saying no. We're saying
Right.
no, and really getting educated about this, because there is an uh, I wouldn't say an epidemic, but there is, in our reality, feminine bodies are having to navigate challenges with our bodies in a way that is impactful to our fertility. It's impactful to the way we live. It's impactful to we we're able to um, and be fully expressed sexual, sensual beings, to be fully expressed in all spaces in our creativity, and come to be to not be at war with the masculine and feminine energies. We are awakening the we're awakening to these elements within ourselves. And the epidemic that is happening is that um, there is more challenges right now with fertility. There is more challenges with the diagnosis and the um, and what to do with endometriosis.
Right.
There is still a great shame and hiding with our moon cycle. Well, it's our menstrual cycle. I I I now go back to calling it a moon cycle.
Right.
Um, and this disconnection with our sensuality and our full-bodied expression. 50%, almost 50% of us feminine bodies still don't really understand how the moon cycle works, and in our bodies, and
Right.
how hormones, you know, take us on a ride.
Right.
Take us
Right.
on a ride, whether we're in the whether a feminine body has just started to get her blood, her period, whether we're in that phase where we have dealt with pregnancy and post pregnancy, um, uh, and then also being in the space where you're in your wise queen chapter.
That's what I was going to ask you about. So
Right.
where do that's what I was going to ask, was where do women fit into that paradigm, like women like me? So I had a full
Mhm.
hysterectomy when I was 31.
Mm. Hmm.
So, which was my choice. right? Which consequently I actually had to fight for because I was only 31, which I think isn't so much because they wanted to make sure I wasn't going to regret the decision. I think they just want to make sure that they don't get sued, right? So they try and talk you out of that. But it was the other side of the, it was my decision coin, right? Because they made me jump through a lot of hoops and I had to try a lot of other things. Now, I had a full hysterectomy because from the time I was young into my adulthood, I never had a regular period in my life, ever. I would go for long periods of time without a period. I would, or I would have irregular periods that I would get it, and then 3 weeks later, I would get it again. I would have really heavy periods where the pain was so excruciating, I would be on the brink of passing out from the pain. And I had polycystic ovarian disease. So that is ultimately what, and by the time I was 31, I was confident in that I was a lesbian, and I'd been an out lesbian since I was 17. And I knew that I didn't want to have children. And it still took a year for me to convince them to give me a full hysterectomy. So that shows the other side of the coin of it's my body and I get to make that decision. But like I said, I think for this discussion, I'm more interested in, how do women who, not only who are in menopause naturally, but women like me who had a hysterectomy by choice. Obviously, we still have a womb, and we still have a metaphorical womb, and we still have womb energy, right? Like we still have that kundalini at the base of the spine, which is part of that whole womb system, right? Am I right about that?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm trying to understand the question. Is it how like what are the how do we navigate that space?
I guess so, yeah. Like if you are a woman like me who doesn't have ovaries or a period, how does that change the womb energy landscape? I guess that's the question.
Um, the only thing that really changes is that physical uterus is not there. But like you said, the energy
It's
is
still there.
still there. Um, and especially, yeah, if there's no physical, uterus, fallopian tubes, or a person is in their wise queen and they're not bleeding anymore. I don't say crone because it feels very put on, like it feeds into the narrative of this thing, this archetype that is just like not it's like it's repulsive and it's like anything but. So I like,
It feeds the old hag
yeah,
kind of
yeah, and
idea.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and it's anything but like, uh, technology and where we are and all of that. It is the space where we're really coming into, where we're really in that wise queen, and it's also that space where it's like, truly, we don't give a fuck.
Yep. Yep. I can
It's just
attest to
like,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. When you talk to women at a certain space, like a lot of the things that we may stress about um, earlier on, it's just like it's not even an issue just because of the wisdom of experience and
Right.
how we live. But I digress. Um, like the space where where a femme body does not bleed, there's still that the resources and the the connections to the womb and the reconnections to the womb are still there, because we can connect, you can connect to the moon cycles, the new moon following. If we think about the beginning of the time that we bleed, I'm doing air quotes and I know people are listening and not watching, but the
But
time
that's
that
okay. Well, I mean, people are watching on YouTube, so
yeah, okay. So the time that you bleed, either energetically or physically, right? If it's energetically, you can think of, okay, the new moon, starting from the new moon to the full moon, or that cycle, right? The new moon is like your initiation point of,
right.
okay, it's time to go in and really pay attention to how your body is, and really it's like we get to be attuned to our bodies and our womb space all the time, but for that initiation point is the new moon. And and it's that connection to be able to go in and to descend into the womb space never goes away, even if you have a hysterectomy. And you brought up something that is really, that it boils my blood, but it's also, it's part of, it's part of why there are so many women doing, that are getting into this work and really speaking about it, because the fact is that when we and there is resources out there, conventionally and non-conventionally, that does help and support the healing of the body. However, in conventional medicine, they still are taking a really long time to accurately diagnose things like endometriosis. And so women have to be like literally waiting and doing tests, invasive tests, for years, and we're told to just live with it, and just to live with that pain, and not really understand what kind of pain that a woman is going through. There are a few groups out there, and I wish I could name them appropriately, but there are some groups out there, and they're going to trade shows, and they are literally giving a physical response to, like, this is what women go through in terms of pain. And they have some sensory thing hooked up to them, so men and women can go sit and receive what it is like when they receive when they're getting this discomfort during their moon cycle, right? And a lot of them are blown away and be like, wow, how
Right.
do you live? And we're like, exactly, right?
Right.
Yeah, and the mere fact is that women's health, and compared to the research with men's health, um, it's uneven, right? And it's uneven. There is more research on men's health than there is on women's health. So when we're looking at these layers of, what is there to support us, you know, conventionally and unconventionally, there's a reason why more women are moving towards the holistic and the spiritual and the divine feminine, is because there are ancestral and modern resources that connects us back to our bodies to help support a way out of pain,
Yeah.
a way out of not feeling so like disconnected and feeling like, am I going crazy? A
Yeah.
way of like navigating, menopause a little bit easier than, this is just what it is. Get
Right.
used to it. No, we shouldn't have to get used to it.
Right. Right.
We shouldn't have to get used to it. We shouldn't have to live in pain. The Muni Kai, the 13th rite of the Muni Kai tribe, these words are just so profound. From a Peruvian tribe, they say the womb is not a place to store fear and pain. The womb is to create and give birth to life, right? So when we think of that, it's like, what are the factors that are contributing to the pain, and what are the systems that, are saying, no, you got to live with it.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, why do I have to, if your dick was in so much pain, like the pain that we
Right.
feel, in endometriosis, in fibroids, and if it was in that much pain, there would be more action,
Right.
but it's not. So this is the contribution, because there isn't. Women are looking, feminine bodies are looking to see what are the other solutions, what are the other ways that we can support the body, and not be in pain, and not reject the body,
Right.
not reject ourselves, not reject, not be at war with what is innately something so powerful within us. But the conditioning has been out there to say, okay, um, don't be too loud, don't be
Right.
too expressive,
Right.
hide this away. Oh, this is not clean.
Right.
Put some fragrance on it.
Right.
Don't be too expressive.
I remember, um, do you remember the television show Third Rock from the Sun?
Hmm.
There was this, and it's so funny because I mean that show was on a long time ago, what,
Hmm.
20, 30 years ago? And at least 20, right? Probably close to 30. I'm be curious. I'm going to look that up later and see how long ago that show was on because I still remember it. There was an episode where the brother and sister were talking about whatever, and she said something about makeup, and she asked him something like, she said, well, I don't understand why there's so much makeup or whatever. And the brother said, I don't really understand either, but I think it has something to do with the economy depends upon it or something like that.
Hmm.
And I still remember that to this day. And then I remember a comedian talking about where's the men's hygiene aisle in the
Hmm.
drugstore or
Hmm.
something like that. You know what I mean? And just how, I mean, the whole system is designed. So when you talk about, that this is happening, one of the reasons it's so prevalent now and why I see it online so much is because the time is now, right?
Hmm.
And I think from a spiritual standpoint, that's why anything goddess related is so prevalent
Hmm.
now. And it was interesting when you said that, part of that is that there's a way out of this physical pain because I feel the same way about like part of what I'm doing with my other series that I'm launching in May about Priestess at the Altar is the goddess is the answer to your emotional pain.
Hmm.
Also caused by this system that has been so insidious in our lifetimes for so long, it's normal to us,
Hmm.
right? Because
Hmm.
power hides in plain sight.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, yeah. It's like,
and
I
I
mean, that's what
and
drew
that's what I
me.
say the same thing, right? That the goddess is the solution to that is the message that I'm trying to bring to people with that series is that there is hope and there is some release and relief in the goddess who doesn't judge, who you don't need to earn grace from, who you don't need to worry about this ridiculous system of punishment and reward that is in patriarchal Abrahamic religion. You know what I mean? That the goddess is love,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's partly what drew me into want to understand more about this spirituality. Because when 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 you start to understand like the goddess art, expressive arts, and it really does it really does bring you back into the sacredness of our bodies and the um the the remembrance of how do we one treat ourselves and ho- really governing our energy in a way that to remember like, oh, I this this my body, my mind, my mentality, my all like my who the surroundings, my environment, all of these things are, conducive to um how how a goddess treats themselves as someone that is um, sacred and um, sacred, but in a way that it's not like in a hierarchy, I'm better than you, but
Right.
it's when we hear the phrase that we all say, to take care of ourselves. When, our
Right.
parents will say, take care of yourself. Your doctor will say, look, take care of yourself. When we tell our friends, hey, girl, guy, take care of yourself. You get home safely. It's this affirmation of like, of you are important. You're
Right.
important to me. Um, I want you to thrive. I want you to flourish. I want you to be vibrant and hear and enjoy and do all the things. Your presence is important. You are a gift. And what the goddess arts, expressive arts does is a remembrance of that to remind you of the sacred systems in our bodies and all the beautiful earth energetic and earth resources and multidimensional resources that are there to really connect us back so we can thrive in this ecosystem of life through this highest abundance of divine wealth. But in order for us to do that, how are how are we taking care of our temple bodies?
Right.
And when we see someone that is radiating this energy, they're like, oh, their hair is so this, their face
Mm.
and their skin is so that. Look at the clothes and look at their body. And we see the outer eminence. Oh, she's so beautiful, she's so this, da 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 da. But we don't realize that that person has taken a deep value of taking care of themselves
Right.
in a way that it's like it's non-negotiable. When we take
Right.
sacred space, the goddess arts help us to channel in and create sacred space where we get to go in and do that sacred soul work,
Yeah.
you know? Um, and through that sacred soul work, we get into the roots, we get into the foundation, the core, this portal. And here's where the womb comes through, and that is the core
Right.
of that, right? Yoni
Which
speaks.
is allegorical for the center core of the earth, right?
Right, right.
That is the right. That's the core of the earth is the womb of the earth. And then we go back to the creation myth, right? With the earth as the goddess, right? That's the original primordial goddess is Gaia. Gaia was the first kind of universal earth mother, right?
Hmm.
It blows me away. I don't understand how everybody doesn't think like this. You know what I mean?
I do. No,
I mean, I
I know
do
why.
know,
I
but
I know why. Yeah,
I do know why, but you know.
because there's the the systems and conditionings that are out there are designed to separate us
Right.
from that inner knowing through that from that um, from that spiritual place that is, um, we're embedded with those codes within us. But the way the things were set up, it was to separate us from that so we can be indoctrinated into leaning into or trusting other systems, other people, other methodologies to say, well, we can't trust that.
Right.
You need to trust this outside force. And what part of the, going into the womb and going into the divine spirituality is to is to come back into, no, like, the answers that you seek, the answers that, the things that this energy, how we can heal ourselves. Absolutely, if we need support from conventional medicine, absolutely, we're going to use that to the best of our ability. However, to work in conjunction, to
Right.
realize that we also have a pivotal part of taking action in our own systems, in our own energy, in our own spirituality, in our own presence, um, to be able to work with that for ourselves. And the separation has happened where anything that is um, goddess like, divine, with the moon, that is considered witchy, or the woo woo, which I hate, that those two words, woo woo. I hate
Yes.
it because, again, it separates. It separates
Yeah.
what is within. And this is why we can find so much of a discourse or a disconnection, because it's like,
Well,
real
and it doesn't, well,
like
and it
this.
doesn't help that there's so much spirituality for sale is the worst thing that could have happened to us,
Mm,
right? Because
mm,
there's so much of that, and there are so many illegitimate, dishonest
mhm,
people taking the concepts that people like you and I hold
mhm,
dear and believe in and are sincere about.
mhm,
But for every one of us,
mhm.
there's 10 of not us.
Mhm,
You know what I
mhm,
mean?
mhm,
I mean,
mhm,
I don't mean to be pessimistic about it, but in an online world, that's hard to compete with,
mhm, mhm,
because people don't know.
mhm,
I mean, it takes years for us to build a reputation and have a marketing plan that works, and you know what I mean?
mhm, mhm,
That's one of the reasons why when I started the Girlfriend God, I said this is not a project I'm going to monetize,
mhm,
because I'm not in it to make any money. You know what I mean? Because I had a project before a couple of years ago, called Moon and Fire, and I was trying to do it for a living and make money at it, and I didn't enjoy it because of
mhm,
that. You know,
mhm, mhm,
so when I decided to do this, I decided I didn't that I wanted to do this because I wanted to do it, not because I wanted to do it for a living. You know what I
mhm,
mean? And that's nothing against people who are doing it for a living, because everybody I've had on this show is doing it for a living, and they're doing it for a living successfully. And
mhm,
more power to you all for
mhm,
doing that. And I send as many people in your direction as I can. You know
mhm,
what I mean? I actually know another woman who does somatic movement,
mhm,
not to the scale that you do, but she's been doing it for a long time.
mhm,
um, I should introduce the two of you. You'd probably have a lot to talk about.
mhm, mhm,
Um, but I think your work is fascinating because you bring so much of your lineage into it.
mhm,
You know what I mean? My other friend is just another white lady.
mhm,
So,
mhm, mhm, mhm. Well, I think it's really important, and I didn't realize how important it was. I mean, I immediately, going into being in any space. because I am, my background, as you said, as you read, my background is from the Caribbean, but also my family, both on my mom and dad's side, both immigrated to England during the Windrush era. And for those of you who don't know what the Windrush era is, this was a time in, I believe, 50s and 60s, where um, a lot of the people from the Caribbean were granted access to uh, immigrate to England to fill in for um, jobs that were needed to be filled. And so both of, my family was a part of that. Um, and then and then I also so I have that in my background, and then eventually my mom and dad immigrated to Canada, which is where I live now. So as a brown skin black woman, in this space of wellness, or just any space, um, it, it's it I feel it's partly a responsibility. I don't feel like it's an obligation, because it's I mean I can't not talk about it, because that's part of the experience that I came from, but it's also the experience that I've seen. And through lineage, through conversations with family, and my like mother, great aunties, um, and godmother, and all fellow sisters, across the board. Um, I can't not share about it, because it contributes to the human experience. In order for us to understand and to empathize and have compassion, and to really be in a space of unity, and to champion one another, we have to be able to talk about our experiences without shame, without having to hide, without and be also to be open to hear those experiences, right? Because I'm a Black woman, and because I'm a person of color, there are a lot of things that, quote unquote, are um, roadblocks or restrictions that is life that I have to navigate through. It's not to say that we all don't navigate through things, but like we got to be, this is the world that we're in, and it would be naive for me to say, oh, it's all pixie tails and roses. No, as I am
Right.
judged the moment you see me. I am judged by the moment I start speaking,
Right.
because of what you see, right? And that judgment can go away very quickly, or it can stay there until that person feels safe to be like, oh, I can feel safe around you. Or sometimes there's no judgment at all. I say that to say that I have the talking about the ancestry really gives us an understanding of why some things are happening in our bodies, what emotions, um, what experiences, what traumas and things that are being held in the body. And when we can look at those spaces, or have those conversations, to be like, oh, okay. And then this is where we can peel back the layers and really get into the meat and potatoes of what some things are. For myself, I went through fibroids. Okay. So for those of you who don't know, fibroids are benign tumors that can develop in and outside of the uterus, of the womb space, right? And this is very prevalent in women of color, in Black and Indigenous communities. And a lot of the times and how I found out about that, why it primarily affects that, is because my gynecologist told me that. And so I asked right away, I said, well, why? Why does it primarily happen to these cultural groups? And they didn't have an answer. So one of the reasons why I think ancestry is so important, especially in the womb, is because it gives us not essentially a blueprint, but it gives us context to why generations may be going through the same imbalance. and it just keeps, the cycle keeps repeating. And once, and if you're a woman, a femme body who notices that in your family and your feminine lineage, then you are privy to understand and can stop this from continuing, from you doing your soul work, from the
Right.
womb work that is that one is able to do to help generations back, present and forward.
Right. And you can go back. I've been
Mhm.
told that by, I had Robin Watt on, who does ancestral healing, and you can heal, like you can heal your ancestral line backward and forward.
Mhm.
At least that's what I've been told.
Mhm.
Um, I was going to ask you something else, and I forgot. And as we already discussed before we started this morning,
Mhm.
my memory is not firing very well today.
Mhm. Mhm.
um, so give me an example of how you work with people. Like, do you work with people one-on-one?
Mhm.
What does that look like?
Um,
Or does it depend on what people are coming to you for?
it does. It does. I've had women come to me because um, they wanted to start to regulate or find a better relationship with their blood. I've had women come to me with wanting to just reconnect to their bodies and have a healthier relationship with their bodies and their womb space. I've had women come to me to get support on how to reclaim their wild sexual sensual sovereignty.
My God, I mean, we live in such a puritanical country. It's, I mean, I assume it's that way in Canada too, that it's that way in the US,
Mm.
right? It's just so puritanical. I mean, it's not, and not just for women.
Well, for example, it's really it I don't know if interesting is the word, but it's just like I say wow, as in okay, we're still breaking some stuff. We're unpacking. Sorry, breaking it down is not the word. We're unpacking things
Yes.
because a reaction of a fully embodied woman who could be semi-nude in a photo, um, fully just embracing their sexuality and sensuality, as a modern day tantrika, um, just maybe arms out, maybe a scarf around their chest, but but they're they don't have a lot of clothes on, but they're embracing this beautiful just embodiment of what it is to be fully expressed. Um, that you will get more reactions when you see something that is sexual and sensual, good and bad. But for example, that will be shut down quickly or quicker than something that is out there that is promoting violence. A feminine, and just to put that into context, a fully expressed feminine bodied is more dangerous than uh or is more like, oh, wait a minute, why are you doing that? Put some clothes on. uh than something that promotes more violence and harm to others. Now just
Yes.
think about
And yes,
yeah.
and especially, and even if it's violent sexuality,
Mm,
because I know that, so we have a real problem in the United States with violence equals masculinity. That
mhm,
is something that has been ingrained in our culture for hundreds of years.
mhm,
And there's a guy, I'm sure he's still around. There's this anti-violence educator here named Jackson Katz. He's probably toured in Canada too.
mhm,
And he made this amazing video years and years and years ago. And of course, he's also another cis white male. But because he made this video, I have a lot of respect for the guy. He
mhm,
made a video called Tough Guys, but guys is spelled Guise.
mhm,
And it was essentially all about that, this, this problem that we have with masculinity equals violence. And he showed some amazing footage. Like he did a timeline of the Mattel GI Joe figure and the
mhm,
measurements of the doll if he were human, and
mhm,
took measurements of like the biceps and the muscles in his legs
mhm,
from like the 1950s to when that came out to today,
mhm,
and watch the general size of what the man was get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
mhm,
And then he did this thing with um, leading men in movies, and he started with men like Humphrey Bogart
mhm,
in a suit and tie or a
mhm,
tuxedo, right? And
mhm,
moving up through stages of the Terminator and Rambo, and
mhm,
these depictions of masculinity over time. And I also learned, I don't think it was from Jackson Katz, but it was along the same kind of educator, saying that in slasher films are designed to, when you have that classic slasher film scene where the
mhm,
girl in the shower gets murdered or whatever,
mhm,
there's always a naked or almost naked girl right before the killing. And
mhm,
they were designed that way so that men would be excited
mhm,
right before the girl was killed.
mhm, mhm,
That's disgusting and horrifying, and I can't believe that more people don't know that.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, because I mean, it's we don't. It's not really this discussion about that. Like on the mainstream field, um, doesn't clue into that. I mean, there is discussion about that, but in a way to make it reflective, like to do as exactly what the gentleman did. It's like here's a just to put this into context. Here's a representation, picture, to see. Oh, this is what this is. This is what's going on. And what and thinking about what are we perpetuating
Right.
as a society, what is being perpetuated, and what is being accepted as the norm. I've never been a fan of horror movies, and now that even now, as the more knowledge I get, the more I it's just like, oh my gosh, there is
I mean,
so much
I like horror
untruth.
movies. I like
Yeah,
scary movies, but I don't
yeah,
like I don't like slasher movies like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Friday the 13th and all that.
yeah.
Like that's not my
Mm-mm.
jam.
Yeah.
But
It's not entertainment for me.
right. But see, the problem with that is that
Mhm,
even though that information like that is available, I
mhm,
mean that Jackson Katz video, I only know about that because I was a rape crisis counselor.
mm,
You know what
mhm,
I mean? Where those
mhm,
videos are shown in classrooms and at universities. They're
mhm.
not on TV. You know what I mean? The average guy watching NASCAR sitting on his couch drinking a beer isn't privy to that information.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's those kind of things that really do need to be embedded into into conversation and into educate, and it's good that it's brought forth in educated spaces, but it needs it the calling really is for it to be brought, cast a net wider, and to have more people, and more of us uh, be conscious of this. How I believe that when we get deeper into understanding, like um, the our masculine and feminine energies within us, not just, as we think of masculine, we think of men, and feminine, we think of women, and not, and they're very separate. And so we identify what is feminine and what is masculine,
Right.
and not and understanding of weaving those two energies within us, because we all have that.
We all have
We all
both.
have
Right.
both. And I mean, it can be mind blowing, to realize that and understand that there's a why there's a disconnect sometimes of ourselves, is that there is a there is a hierarchy of that masculine energy, and the feminine energy is, there are some aspects of the feminine that is celebrated, and there's some aspects of the feminine that is wanting to be brought down to a certain level.
Right.
And
And that's what Abrahamic religion has done,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because from Greco-Roman times on, men have been taught to fear beautiful, intelligent, independent, powerful women.
Hmm.
Like I remember Carla on her podcast talking about Lilith and how men were told the story, and in the demonizing of Lilith, men were told that Lilith would come in the night and steal their seed, right? Because they were taught by the Bible that spilling their seed was a sin, right? That was only to be used for procreation.
Hmm.
So Lilith would come in the night and steal their seed, thereby making them completely not responsible for their nocturnal emissions, or wet dreams, if you prefer. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
letting them off the hook,
Hmm. Hmm.
not making them responsible for their behavior at all.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And if you know the history of Lilith, she was not a demon. She
Hmm.
was actually God's favorite for a while. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? And in that tradition, but I don't know. It's just, so that's the paradox, right? It's like, yes, I know and completely embrace that we all have masculine and feminine energies, that
Hmm.
the dichotomy of gender is really just a human construct, right? That gender is a social myth.
Hmm.
Um, on the other hand, I do think that we need the division in spirituality, because we need the divine feminine now,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And intellectually, I know that this creator of everything is genderless, right? But I need an alternative to the male god of patriarchal religion. So I need her to be feminine, right? Plus, as a Westerner and a human being, I like uh, idolatry, right? And I'm a very visual person, so I need imagery and all of that. So I need her to be a woman, even though intellectually I know she's not,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. And I
Um,
mean, yeah, and this is where, like, this divine union is really impactful, because I mean, it's within our physical and energetic design, that our masculine and feminine systems, they work together to keep us alive.
Right.
But they also bring, a grounded clarity and anchoring to how we move and function throughout our lives. And within our womb space, we have the right and the left side that helps to govern these spaces in our lives. But um, and to also remember, for our listeners, to remember that we came from a space that the masculine and feminine were in deep harmony.
Right.
And that experience is seldomly expressed, um, because the experiences of human history is only expressed so far. And if they go back any further, it's considered this is ancient times. This is the pagan times where, um, there was no order, there was no nothing until such and such time where uh, things were brought into balance, quote unquote balance. Um,
But that
is
depends on which creation myth you
exactly.
believe. There's a
Yeah.
million creation myths, right?
Mhm.
I mean, everybody wants to always talk about the Greek and the Romans, but there are other mythologies,
Yeah,
just as there
exactly.
are other histories.
Yeah. And I think this is the this is where we are right now. When we talked earlier about why is there a rise in womb health and in the feminine and the masculine, and this this new level consciousness, um, is because there is this great remembrance
Yes.
of going beyond the trauma, and remembering these um, these ways of these ways of being, and or this these these experiences and this wisdom that is out there, that we have done this, we have been in those spaces before,
Yes.
in order to support us in this time now, to not negate like the modern resources that we have, but also to be a bridge, um, of those gems that we have been through, that can support us now.
See, maybe I was wrong. See, my prophecy for the past several years running has been that um I thought that she was ready to like wipe us off the board and start over again.
Mm,
Because for all we know, we're like version, 2.8756
mhm,
human. You know what
mhm,
I mean?
mhm, mhm,
And that she just keeps recreating us. And in
mhm,
between, she's like, okay, well, commerce, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. And capitalism, maybe we won't do
mhm,
that next time. And you know what I mean? And we just keep starting over. Um, but maybe not. Maybe because I keep thinking that this return to a matriarchal, matrifocal, whatever focused world, which I think is coming, but I didn't think I would see it in my lifetime. But maybe I will. I
mhm,
mean, I'm only in my 50s,
mhm.
so it's possible. I would love to see that in my lifetime. Wouldn't you?
It's happening. It's happening.
I
It's
mean,
the
it is
thing.
because you're
And
right. I mean,
yeah.
it isn't just the womb culture that I did see kind of come online all of a sudden,
Mhm,
both literally and figuratively, right?
mhm,
It has got us feminine everything,
mhm,
right? Because women are fucking angry,
mhm,
and anger causes, there is great energy in anger,
mhm,
especially productive anger, because I think there is such a thing,
mhm,
right? There is a time and a place for when assertiveness is no longer enough and assertiveness becomes aggressiveness. And I think that is what is happening with women, and
mhm,
rightfully so. I mean, they've had the boot on their throats for just too long, and they're fucking done. You know what I mean? And I understand that. As a woman, I understand that. I mean, I've escaped some of it as a lesbian, but some of that, I'm not entirely shielded from that. You know what I
Mhm,
mean?
mhm, mhm, mhm.
Some of it, yes, but not
Yeah,
all of it.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
once a young, attractive woman too, even though I'm gay. You know what I mean? And I don't fit the typical dyke profile, right?
Mhm,
Got long hair and I wear makeup. So I was out there with you all at
mhm,
one point. Now I'm overweight and I'm getting older, so I'm
mhm,
kind of invisible now, but I was once out there, and I
mhm,
dealt with those men
mhm,
too.
mhm.
So
Well, I would just want to put focus on that your presence here and you doing this work and just you are a vibrant, amazing woman,
well,
and
thank you.
yes, and the fact that we're bringing these conversations to life is part of yours, part of your sacred soul work of your visibility of being seen. And this is what's really exciting, is that because more people are leaning in and 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 starting to ask the questions, um, about these things, and making those connections and reaching out, and for us leaders, being being a safe, supportive space for people to discover. And this is part, it's good to know that we're not alone,
Yeah.
doing this work, because I the part when you said about getting frustrated and anger and motivated, this is one of the reasons what propelled me, because from being sitting in a gynecologist's office, that person is no longer my gynecologist. I found another person.
Good.
But my one of my first appointments, when I was trying to figure out what was going on in my womb space, um, I had a really humiliating, devaluing, dehumanizing experience, um, where I left the appointment just in tears, and I felt mortified, and but also shameful and dehumanized. When I was there, like, I was actually excited to go to the gynecologist,
Mhm.
and I quickly turned into, I couldn't believe the questions and the solutions that I was hearing, and I felt less of a human. I felt like a number. And the question that came through during that appointment that really just made me go, is this for real right now? Is this
Right.
what women go through? Is this what feminine bodies go through? Is when I was approached to about my age, and the expectation of when I was going to get pregnant, and if I had a partner, or you should get on that, or the question that really shook me up was like, if we could just get you pregnant, we can then figure out what's happening, and then we can just take it out. And I was like, what? How like,
Wow.
at first I was like, how dare you ask me that? But at the same time, it's like, how dare you think that I could just go get some random man and have sex with, and get pregnant, and
That's
and then
that's
take it
alarming.
out? Like that was
Wow.
just unbelievable to me to
That
receive.
is unbelievable.
And it was from another female gynecologist, and I was like, what?
What?
And this is what it hurt me just to receive that. But it hurt me
I'm
more to
so
think,
sorry that that happened to you.
oh, oh, thank you. It hurt me more to think that, what what else is being said to women?
Yeah.
What else is being said in that very intimate space, that intimate space? The seeds of gynecology were started from trauma.
Yeah.
It was started from trauma. So to add on to that was just was horrifying. And after I processed that, that's where the fire really kicked under my ass, and it was like there's got to be more.
Right.
There's got to be a better support
Yeah.
for this. And one of the first things I did, I said, I'm not going back there. I found another doctor, I found another gynecologist, and I went down the rabbit hole of really just asking for a different kind of support that could help me during my physical womb clearing, but also address a bigger picture that this was presented in front of me. And that's what a lot of us leaders, I mean, we don't always have to go through something so traumatic. That
Right.
is one of the reasons sometimes why we get into what we do.
Right.
But it's like, how do we take that space of anger, of frustration, and bring it into a space that can be of service
Right.
through a unifying, harmonizing, but loving space to serve humanity in the way that it serves all, not just a certain bunch, not just a
Right.
certain group, but that will serve humanity.
Well, and that's what I think is happening, because so one of the things that having this podcast has done for me is I have created this little network of connections that I have, right? So now I have this little kind of web of sisterhood, right, that I've created around me. Because before that event that Flora did, I was feeling very alone. I was very lonely on my little singular goddess path, right? So now I have all these people that I can yammer on about the goddess with. And so I think this theme of sisterhood is growing. So there are these little pockets of sisterhood popping up all over the place. And it's like I could tell you, I'm a very visual person. So
Mhm.
I see these little pockets like there's a map, right? Like I see a globe in my head, and there's these little pockets of light, and then eventually they create a web all around the world, and there's this global sisterhood that we all belong to, and we're just going to take over, and everything's going to be great.
Mhm, mhm,
That's what
mhm,
I see. That's
mhm,
what I
mhm,
see. I'm
mhm,
hopeful.
mhm.
I'm hopeful. And the goddess is just up there smiling, watching what's happening,
Yeah,
going, I knew you could do it.
yeah.
Right? That's what
We're,
she's
we're
thinking. I knew you could do it.
yeah, and we're doing this. It's not just um, the feminine. We
Well,
we
that's the
are
other
doing this. We are
that's the
doing
other
this with
healing part, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
women are stepping out of what has always been our societal norm, which is that women have been taught to compete with one another
Mhm,
for everything, for men, for money, for jobs,
mhm,
for, as siblings.
mhm.
We've
Yeah,
been taught to step on each other
yeah.
and to climb over each other, to struggle to the top of the heap, because in all these industries, there are so few women. So if you are a woman in this field, you better be the best woman in this field,
Mhm,
because you're lucky to be a woman in this field, right? Just so much of that.
mhm,
So I see a lot of people trying to put an end to that and learn how to be friends with other. Do you know how many women I know who fucking hate other women?
mm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, and it's like we're healing those sister wounds,
Yeah,
and but we're also, it's not we're it's not we're also bringing back harmony with the masculine because we cannot do this just by ourselves, because as we rise, we are being the example, and this
Right.
energy ripples out with our masculine counterparts, and our sons get to really see another way of, treating, girls and women, and or themselves, and to honor themselves. And so as we rise up, our the men, the boys, our fathers, all around us, they receive this, and we get to do this together. This is not, yes, there are things that we do, in our circle pods, but we have to have these conversations with our men, with our boys, with our fathers. um ch- n- Not necessarily we have to change you. No, we're just going about it, being an example in doing things a different way,
Right.
and celebrating our masculine uh supports, and and seeing them, not just like with the whip, and you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing that.
Right. Right.
It's like, no, like it's like when we see the feminine and the masculine coexist together, they do not go without the other. So it's like Shiva and Shakti, or
Right.
uh, um, oh, Chango and Oshun, and all the different deities and the different religions. So not religion, spiritualities. The masculine and feminine, when they're together in harmony, they support one another. And it's the same thing in our bodies. It's the same thing in our womb space. And it's the same thing of how we uplift human consciousness, and the way we are in our society. And this is part of our living legacy. This is not just a fairy tale. This is not just utopia. This is what we are in sacred action of doing now.
All right.
Mm.
Well, I think we've come to the end. It's been about an hour. Are you ready for your 3 questions that I ask all the guests at the end of the show?
Sure.
All
Yes.
right. Okay. So if you've listened to the show, you already know the 3 questions.
Mm.
Tell me something about yourself that people who know you would be surprised to learn.
Mm. Um, that's I've always had this, um, I guess, connection to spirituality, but never really understood it. Um, I've been always been very sensitive to things, but I couldn't. There was no. It was just, oh, that was just the way it was. But the channeling aspect would probably be the surprising thing, of being able to listen and access whatever messages, whatever guidance. Um, that would probably be surprising, just because I don't, if you're open to it, we'll talk about it. If you're not open to it, I don't talk about it. And it's
Okay.
not in a space of hiding. It's just in, um, my comfort and my safety of what it is, and if a person's not open to that, I'm not going to force anything, or I'm just going to
Right,
be, oh,
right.
hey, no.
Right,
They're
right,
ready. They're
right.
ready to
It's not
receive
on your
it.
business card.
Exactly. If they're ready to receive it, yes. If they're not, then they're not. And
Okay.
there's no harm or shame in that. But that channeling aspect, um, may be surprising. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Second question. What is your current favorite movie or TV series?
Ooh.
Everybody's
Well,
binge watching something.
okay. Well, my sister introduced me to How I Met Your Mother. Um, and yeah, and yeah, it's fun. It's an enjoyable show, so I watch it now and again. Um, movie, I have to say, I, I'm really fascinated by Marvel movies,
Okay.
and I'm fascinated by more their storytelling and their behind the scenes. So I love watching their movies, and I also love even more watching a docu-series that they have called Assembled, where they go behind the scenes
Hmm.
and they peel back the layers of like how the set design and the story and the development and they I really appreciate how they do their homework, and they take it like 3 times, like 100 times further into creating something that is really rich and deep. um so I appreciate especially their, like, the Black Panther and the Shang, was it, oh, the Shang, I'm probably mispronouncing it. Um, but like Black Panther, Miss Marvel, where they really go deep in culture, and
Yeah.
there's a depth of really appreciation and honoring, through their storytelling. So those I really appreciate their movies. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And your final question, if your life were a movie, what would be the theme song of your life on the soundtrack?
um,
This is my favorite question, and I've gotten a lot of different answers. It's a very eclectic list.
well, this
Mm.
honestly, the song that came through just now was the Sex and the City theme song.
Oh, okay.
um,
I can't remember what it's called. I'll have to look it
and
up, but okay. Yeah, that's a great
yeah,
song.
they're just the instrumental
Uh-huh.
that
Uh-huh.
that played that came through. Um,
But you can only
song
pick one. We got to pick
now,
with that.
huh?
We got to go with that.
Yeah, but one
Okay.
of my favorite songs, and if I was to put that as a soundtrack, is Golden, by Jill Scott.
Okay.
Um, yeah, yeah,
I'll,
a
I'll let
big
you I'll let you have two. One could
fan.
be like the intro credits music.
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
All right. Well, so I'm going to end the meeting and then the screen's going to go blank. I'm just going to end abruptly because that's just my way.
Hmm.
Plus, I have to pee.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, I'm really glad that we finally got to do this. I think this
Hmm.
was a great discussion and a great opener.
Hmm.
So I'm going to go. But thank you
Hmm.
again. Thank you so much for working with me. And I'm
Yes.
sorry about the first couple, like I got the time difference
No
wrong. I
worries.
think I'd
No
be able to
worries.
handle that by now. It was only like an hour or two, but
Yeah. Yeah.
right.
It's all
So
good. Hmm.
thank you very much for coming on the show.
Hmm.
And until I
Thank you.
talk to you again,
Hmm.
may the peace and
Hmm.
love of the goddess be with you.
Thank you. You too.
Okay.
Enjoy the day. Enjoy the weekend. Okay.
Okay, you too. Thanks for watching The Girlfriend God on YouTube. If you enjoy this podcast, the best way you can support it is to like it, follow it, leave comments on the page, rate it, review it, share it with your friends. But most of all, subscribe to this channel. And if you want more of The Girlfriend God, you can find The Girlfriend God on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Thanks again for watching.